Welcome to another episode of the Go Intelligent Sports Podcast Show. Today is a somber day for some people. Sean Payton has retired. And I just want to come on here today and give you my thoughts. First thing I need y'all to do is like the video. Subscribe to the channel if this is your first time checking me out. This is a Saints sports show. And today is probably the biggest Saints news in franchise history, bar none. Because the best coach the Saints have ever had, the best coach they have ever had, and it's not up for debate. His legacy is stamped and approved. He's decided to walk away. Doesn't know if he will be back. He said he doesn't know what's next, and it kind of feels good. That's a direct quote from him. Much respect to Sean Payton. For anybody that knows me, anybody that has tuned into my show, I'm not going to say I'm not the biggest Sean Payton fan, but I'll say that I've been calling for him to be gone for years. Not necessarily because of him not being a great coach. It's because of the expectations that I had for him being a great coach. And it's always gotten people, a little frustrated with me, I'll just say. For the diehard Saints fans, they couldn't understand why I was so frustrated with Sean Payton. I even started calling him Sean Percocet because of his ego and the way he would call plays. It would seem as if he was under the influence on the sideline, because some of the stuff that he would do just did not make any sense whatsoever in situational football moments. And if you are a truth teller like I am, and a truth observer, and one who doesn't necessarily get caught up in the emotion of the Saints, because they can emotionally drain you, then you can see that sometimes in certain games, Sean would let his ego get in the way of doing what was the right thing to do, and it would ultimately cost the Saints. A perfect example is this year against the New York Giants, with the Saints up 11 points in the fourth quarter, and one mistake by Sean with going for it on fourth down, and the Giants gained momentum and never looked back. That's one of the moments. Another moment was when you figure Sean, it's almost as if he forgot that a quarterback handing the ball to the running back behind the line is not illegal. Sometimes he would go drives, play multiple. He would go a long time before running the ball. It's almost as if he didn't have running plays in his playbook. Oh, I say all that to say this, because this is not a be critical of Sean Payton episode. This is a reflection of sorts. I've been calling for Sean to be gone since 2016. It was after the last 8-8 or 6-9 season, that 7-9, I'm sorry, which I don't think the Saints had a 7-9 season. It might have been 8-8. But anyway, it was back-to-back multiple seasons that the Saints were just mediocre, and I felt as though they weren't winning, they weren't competitive. Like, they were a 500 team, and I felt as though the Saints were just wasting time or wasting Drew's time, because at the time I was still a Drew Brees fan. I felt as though he can still get it done, but he was getting rid of all the talent around him. This is Mike Thomas's rookie year. Mike Thomas had not become the player that we know him to be today. This is before Alvin Kamara. This is before Marshawn Lattimore. This is before Ryan Ramczyk, who would all come in the next draft that season. And I just felt as though the Saints it was just time for a change. That maybe, the message in the locker room wasn't getting through to the players, that Sean probably just had, worn out his welcome or whatever. It was time for new leadership, per se. Especially when you're coming off the fact that, okay, now you just gotten rid of Jimmy Graham, which I didn't like. Now you've gone into the offseason and you traded Brandon Cooks. That was the last straw. I was like, I'm out of this. The Saints have pissed me off for the last time. I will not let them do it. They're not winning any goddamn way. So Sean has to be next. If this doesn't work, Sean has to be next. Well, they had a historic draft. And the ship got turned into the right direction. The Saints go off and they're 12-4, 13-3, and 13-3. They're making the playoffs. They make the NFC Championship game. The NFL decided to which I'm not blaming on Sean. The NFL just screwed the Saints, for lack of a better word. Because I don't want to cuss, but you know what I'm saying. They screwed them, right? So my perspective on Sean leaving today is one that I feel as though it was a long time coming. Not saying I'm not taking away anything the Saints have accomplished the last 3 seasons, not taking any away from that. But my thing is, you shouldn't be losing to teams that aren't any good. I understand that they're professionals, but you shouldn't be losing to teams that you should beat. The New York Giants should have never beaten the Saints this season. The Atlanta Falcons should have never beaten the Saints this season. I'm talking about just this season because it's recent. But this goes back into other years as well, that the Saints would drop a game to a team that, for lack of a better word, was playing like dog shit until they ran across the Saints. Last season, it was the Philadelphia Eagles with a rookie quarterback starting for the first time. You shouldn't lose that game. You shouldn't lose that game. But Sean had some great moments with the Saints. He's been here 16 years. That's a long time to be anywhere. 16 years. You got 1 Super Bowl out of it. Saints have never Saints were perennial, I'm not going to say perennial losers, but the franchise wasn't consistently winning, until he showed up. And for that, much respect to him for accomplishing that. But let's look beyond Sean, right? Let's look at what the Saints can do to possibly continue to win. Because I need my diehard Saints fans to know that this organization for the last 16 years has been winning, and the blueprint and the culture is established for them to continue to win. And this is not the Saints team that Sean took over in 2006. It's not. Because even that team that he took over had talent. You had Deuce McAllister. You had Joe Horn, right? You had you brought in Drew Brees, right? You drafted Marcus Colston. You drafted Reggie Bush. right? So you had talent there, which is why they made it all the way to the championship game. But they just wasn't. They just couldn't get over the hump. They ran into a team that was just a little bit was better than them. The Chicago Bears at the time was better than the Saints team. You know, the Saints of that year remind me of the Cincinnati Bengals of today, what they're doing. And people need to understand that Sean was a new head coach, right? No one had given Sean a chance to be the head coach in the NFL before he was hired by Mickey Loomis. This was Sean was a new coach. So let's embrace that. And possibly there can be a new head coach that comes and continues to help the Saints, right? But in this case, let's think about it, right? So Dennis Allen is already on the staff. Dennis Allen has previous head coaching experience, although not great. You know, he did get fired in Oakland. I understand. I get it. But the transition would be much easier to promote from within with someone who, by the way, he coached as the head coach for Sean when he caught COVID against the Buccaneers. Saints won that game in Tampa against Tom Brady. So we have the coaches in place. You promote Dennis Allen. Let's say Pete Carmichael, who's been here since Sean has arrived in 2006. He's been with the organization for 16 years as well. Keep him as the offensive coordinator. If you want to hire a new defensive coordinator, that's fine. You can possibly bring Aaron Glenn back. You can promote from within and get Chris Richards, who was Dallas's defensive coordinator at one time before he joined the Saints. He's the secondary coach right now. You can promote him, right? There's an opportunity for the Saints to transition into new leadership and keep the same people in the building who has established the culture and who is continuing to push that culture through. Do not blow up the team. Do not. If you do that, you don't know what the hell you might get. Me personally, I can't understand, right? Let me look. I don't understand what is the infatuation with Brian Flores. I don't understand what's the infatuation with Brian Flores. What the hell did he do in Miami that has anybody saying, yeah, he'll be a great coach for the Saints? He's not an offensive guy. He's a defensive guy, right? The Saints have someone who had, in my opinion, New Orleans defense is better than Miami's. Period, point blank. Brian, created the quarterback turmoil in Miami. They had Fitzpatrick, for Christ's sake, right? And he still didn't want to give the job to Tua. They drafted Jalen Waddle, whatever his name is, Tua's wide receiver at Alabama. And he still is opposed to Tua playing quarterback. Him and the owner fell out, which is why he got fired. He's so infatuated with trading for Deshaun Watson, who nobody knows what his punishment. We know it's going to be a punishment, but we don't know how long he's going to be suspended or what type of suspension he may get from the NFL, because he's still going through his legal case. Leave Brian Flores alone. Let Brian go to another team. Let him drag all the trade rumors with Deshaun Watson to that team and let him tear up another locker room and another team. Leave the Saints alone. Right? I asked today on my Facebook, what were some of these Saints biggest fears or worst fears, you know, that the teams may that they fear the team may go through. You know, some people are talking about they're afraid that the Saints are going to just fall back into not being competitive, being well, there's 17 games now, right? So instead of being, you know, Saints would be 6-10 or 5-11. Well, now that could be, you know, 5-12 or 7-10, you know, and just missing out on the playoffs at 9-8 like we did this year, or being 8-9. You know, I understand the concerns, but that's not how this roster is built. This roster has a championship defense. They do. And most of the key components on that defense is signed for next season. Yeah, the Saints are going to have cap casualties again this year. They are $75 million over the cap. Last year, it was $100 million, and Mickey made it work. This right here being $75 million over the cap is probably, this is probably easier. Yeah, the number is less, but Mickey has been kicking the can down the road since 2011. He is an expert at kicking the can down the road. So I have faith and confidence in him because he's done it before. The same way that Saints fans had confidence in Sean to get to another Super Bowl because he had done it before. Hadn't done it in 11 years. But he had done it before. So you never lost faith in him. I lost faith 5 years ago because I just seen that it wasn't going to work. Although they had the opportunity 3 years ago, and the NFL decided no. Maybe Sean retiring. Maybe the NFL get off the Saints back now, because now Greg Williams is gone and Sean is gone, right? From this bounty BS that happened in 2012. 2011 season. Maybe this gets the NFL off the Saints back, because I honestly believe while Sean was coaching the Saints, the NFL would never let the Saints succeed at anything. There's been reports out that the Saints have the opponents of the Saints ranked last in penalties called against in their games. When they total up all the penalties over the years since 2011, the opponents of the Saints ranked last in flags. Oh, that's no fucking coincidence, man. Like maybe this gets the NFL off the Saints back, so they might have an opportunity going forward. But you know, when I look at some of the fears of the Saints, about what they think may happen or whatever, like, it's all understandable. But at the same time, change is inevitable. At some point in time, you had to know that one day Sean would not be the coach of the New Orleans Saints. It's no different than any other coach. It's no different than when quarterbacks leave. You know, it's no different. So you have to embrace that. And I'm certain that the Saints have an exit strategy and an exit plan, right? You never know what's going to happen. Do you know, or do you understand? I'm talking to my fans here, because the glass is half full. When the Saints made their appearance at the Super Bowl in the 2009-2010 season, there's been multiple teams to get to the Super Bowl since, and the Saints have not made another appearance. Do y'all understand that, right? Y'all understand that? The San Francisco 49ers fell off the fucking earth and got back. They went with Colin Kaepernick, right in New Orleans. When the lights turned off against Baltimore Ravens, they went. That was 2012. They fell off to the point where they had the number one draft pick and got back to the Super Bowl. They fell off again. To the point where last season they had the number 3 draft pick. And now they're in the NFC Championship game the very next season. So, it's not, the sky is not falling in New Orleans. I need y'all to understand it. It's not falling. The change is inevitable. What we have to do now is embrace that change, accept that change, and meet the challenge and get over that change. And the Saints absolutely have the roster to do it. It's up to the ownership and Mickey to get the job done with putting the right coaches in place to continue the culture. Sean was great. I'm not delusional into saying Sean was not a great coach. I just felt as though his message had fallen on deaf ears at the time that I've been calling for him to be gone from the Saints. That's me though, right? But at the same time, and I can back all this up with facts, but at the same time, I'm not the type of person to say he was trash as a coach. He wasn't. He's the best coach the Saints ever had. Do not panic, Saints fans. Don't panic. Don't panic. The Saints are in a great position to continue winning. I mean, let's be honest. Now here comes my troll part. Let's be honest. What's the difference? We weren't winning any goddamn way, right? But that's been this show. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. There's damn sure gonna be more Saints news coming up because now we're searching for a new head coach. But hey man, this has been Goon. This has been my opinion. Hey, I'm glad you tuned in today. You could have been anywhere else in the world, but you shared your time with me, and I appreciate you for that. Thanks. Until next time, peace.